Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our board meeting of Monday, June the 20th, and this is the last day of spring. Tomorrow, the first day of summer. Before we actually begin our meeting this evening, I would like to recognize and introduce three very special guests who are in attendance this evening. And when I introduce you, I would like you to wave, let us know your presence. Our three new student trustees for the next school year are Ben Cameron from Dunbarton High School, representing Ajax and Pickering. Welcome, Ben. Then we have Gwen Quiddit, and she's from Brooklyn High School, and she's representing Oshawa Whitby. Welcome. And then we have Lauren Edwards, and she's representing Brock, Port Perry, and Uxbridge, and she's a student of Uxbridge Secondary School. Welcome to our three new student trustees. Thank you for joining us. And our land acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and our schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, we learn, and we live. We have a musical presentation, and it is my pleasure to introduce the Highbush Public School and the grade 1 and 2 class and their teacher, Allison Ovnell. Tonight they will be performing the song titled Our Land Acknowledgement Song. The song was written by their teacher, Allison, and it represents the students' learning around the land acknowledgement. Thank you and enjoy. That was so amazing. I was tempted to stand up and clap with you. Thank you to our students from Highbush and to our very talented students and teacher for that presentation. We will now have the singing, the playing of O Canada. Thank you to our students for sharing their talents with us. The next item on our agenda is very, very special, and I will ask Director Marsh to provide for us the declaration of office, the oath of allegiance to our two new trustees.
Thank you very much, Chair Morton. I'd like to call upon Kate Bird to first come up, please. Welcome. So pursuant to provision of Section 209 of the Education Act, and in my capacity as Secretary to the Board, I would like to call upon Kate Bird to come forward to make the requisite declaration regarding the duties of the member of the Board.
Bird, do solemnly declare that I am not disqualified under any act from being a member of Durham District School Board. I will truly, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability execute the office of board member, and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or malversation or other undue execution of the said office, and that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, as required by and in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
Thank you very much. So we're just signing the declaration, and then very honored, Trustee Bird, to ask you to take your seat around the table. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Do you mind coming back, Trustee Bird?
Thanks.
It is now my pleasure to call upon our second candidate, Linda Lowry, if you could please come forward. So again, pursuant to the provision of Section 209 of the Education Act, and in my capacity as Secretary to the Board, I would like to call upon Linda Lowry to come forward and make the requisite declaration regarding the duties of the member of the Board. Welcome, and here's the declaration for you.
I, Linda Lowry, do solemnly declare that I am not disqualified under any act from being a member of Durham District School Board. I will truly, faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability execute the office of board member, and that I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of any partiality or malversation or other undue execution of the said office, and that I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, as required by and in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
Thank you very much. So we'll just sign the declaration, and if you could sign it there, please.
Thank you.
Welcome, Trustee, and for your second time back, so you're more familiar with the round table, but if you could please take your seat there, most appreciated. Oh, sorry, one more. Thank you. Chair, I'll leave it to you now to welcome the two new trustees. Thank you.
We thank you, Kate. We thank you, Linda, for your service. We welcome you, both of you, and I certainly look forward to working with you. We have an agenda in front of us. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, I will move to the adoption of the agenda. However, I do want to amend the agenda. Under recommended actions, after A, I would like to insert another election, and that would be the election of director to Opsba, the voting member. That needs to happen in this meeting. So could I have a motion to approve the amended agenda? Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Seconded by Trustee Thatcher. All those in favor? Thank you. Moving on, we have 3 sets of minutes in front of us. I would like one motion to receive the approved minutes of April 19th and the motion to approve the draft minutes of May 16th and June the 6th. Could I have one motion to receive and approve? Trustee Crawford, your hand is up. Thank you. Could I have somebody to second that motion? Thank you, Trustee Barrett. All those in favor? Perfect. Thank you kindly. Moving on to community presentations, and we have none. But we will have ministry memorandums information update from Director Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. There actually aren't any updates in terms of ministry memorandums, nor is there really an information update, but I did want to take this opportunity, given it is the last regular board meeting of the school year, to sincerely thank everyone around this table in terms of the trustees of the Board of Durham District School Board, as well as staff across the district, students and their families. We have made it through a year that has really required much compassion, care, adaptability, and in the month of June, we're seeing so many moments of celebration of what has been accomplished this year in terms of fantastic learning, wonderful arts opportunities, and as well as celebration of our outdoors, nature. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity during this period to really celebrate everything that this community has accomplished, and it has taken the community to accomplish all of the good things, but I think that students should feel really proud of the year that they have had and what they have done in their schools. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Director Marsh, and I echo those sentiments. Thank you. Moving on to the public question period, and we do have several questions. I would like to invite Dylan to ask the first question. Dylan, are you present? And I see Dylan has arrived.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Dylan. Welcome.
All right, welcome to June, and my question, for this month's question, will document the period between June 20th and September 18th. So my question tonight is about the emergency closing of schools and bus cancellations. Last year, I brought a similar question forward on this topic at the June 21st, 2021 board meeting, but about the bus cancellations that winter, and it was really limited in terms of the mild winter we had. But now, since this winter was a little bit more dramatic, I would like to ask, what were the plans like for both elementary and secondary schools for the winter of the 2021-2022 school year and winter, including what happened on January 17th, 2022, which would be the Monday, and Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, when the big blizzard occurred that caused the schools to close. And also, what happened when on May 21st, 2022, when the derecho hit, that was the Saturday of the Victoria Day weekend. How did those two events impact the board in many ways? And that's all my questions I have for right now.
Thank you, Dylan. I think that we will go to Associate Director Jim Markowski to answer your questions that you have asked.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good evening, Dylan. So some great questions. I will start off by letting you know that we do have procedures. One of them is called the cancellation of student transportation. The other one is an emergency closing of schools that guides our decision-making in relation to the questions that you're asking. You're absolutely right in relation to the cancellation of bus transportation. Over the last 2 years, we have made an addendum to the current procedure, in light of the current realities that we were working with in relation to the pandemic. There was a shift in practices both for secondary and elementary schools. You'll recall that in secondary schools, when buses were canceled, we had the ability to shift to an online learning format, which took place depending on the zone that the students were in. And in relation to elementary, what happened was that students were still expected to come to school, and that decision was made or differentiated based on the access to technology that students had, and schools utilized the tier system based on the health and safety measures that were required at the time. Now, in relation to emergency closing of schools, we do have, as I mentioned, a procedure that guides that for January 17th and 18th that you mentioned, along with May the 21st. If I got my date wrong, I apologize. Based on our procedure, and school boards do have, I'm going to just reference this, may close or authorize the closing of a school for a temporary period where such closing appears unavoidable based on inclement weather and the failure of an essential utility. So you'll recall back in January, we made the decision to close elementary schools. Because we were working in the pandemic, we made the shift for secondary schools to virtual schooling. In relation to the occurrences that happened in May, you will recall that as a result of that storm, there was power outages throughout the Durham region, and because we were unable to restore the power in time, some schools were closed during the week following the May long weekend, and as the power was restored, those schools opened for normal operations. I hope that answers your question, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Morton.
I do have a supplemental as well. So, back at that time in earlier May, you did present the things about the secondary school shifting to remote learning during snow days. I did hear that when would be the only time overall after this current school year that we would be shifting to remote learning in the event that schools are closed?
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton, I think how I would answer that, Dylan, is that as our ability to evolve as a school board and what we've learned through the pandemic and our ability to shift between in-person and virtual learning, our secondary schools were well equipped to make that shift from in-person to virtual. And in order to make an attempt to ensure that learning continued, that decision was made. Again, because of the access to technology, that shift does not take place as easily in elementary, which is why the two processes were differentiated.
Thank you, Dylan, for your questions, and
actually, I do want to, before I leave, I want to actually tell people what I went through during the big storm. Well, we were, on May 21st, 2022, we were in London, Ontario visiting family. We were driving up Bever's Memorial, and all of a sudden the clouds were getting really dark. And then, when we got to, I think, Adamere Drive in London, it just started coming down like really fast. Like the wind came, and it was raining, we had to stop, and
Dylan, I'm sorry I'm going to have to interrupt you, but we've got a lengthy meeting tonight, and we've got several more questions. So I am going to say thank you for joining us, and thank you to Associate Director Markovsky for answering those questions. Next, we're going to go to Akua, and she will be asking her questions. Akua, are you there? And she is present. Akua, could you ask your question, please?
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Akua Frempong. I'm a resident of Whitby. During months like Pride, where the experiences of LGBTQ+ students are often highlighted as a way to support and acknowledge equity, diversity, and inclusion throughout the board, on page 8 of the 2018 to 2021 Equity and Diversity Strategic Plan, it states, by 2020, we will have begun gathering identity data of our students to ascertain exactly who our students are to ensure equitable outcomes academically. My questions are, 1, where is the board currently at with this process? 2, when will this data become available for public review? And 3, does the board have data on what percentage of students identify as LGBTQ+ to ensure it's meeting this goal? Thank you.
Thank you, Akua, for those questions, and we will go to Superintendent Negro for a response.
Individually. Question number 1 was, where is the board currently at with this process? The DDSB completed its first student census in the spring of the 2018-19 school year. The DDSB is preparing for its second administration of the student census in the spring of the 2022-23 school year. In addition to conducting student census, the DDSB is expanding its data collection tools to include identity questions which will provide additional insight and accountability. For example, the most recent administration of the School Climate and Student Wellbeing Survey, administered in the winter of 2020-21, that included racial identity and gender identity questions that align with the Equity Secretariat and data standards outlined in the Anti-Racism Act. Preparation for the 2022-23 administration of the School Climate and Student Wellbeing Survey is expected to build on this work and include additional identity questions. The DDSB continues to work through the External Research Committee to engage with researchers and organizations whose work supports our equity goals, students, and communities. Question number 2 was, when will this data become available for public review? The demographic summaries and data sets from the 2018-2019 student census are posted on the DDSB website and are accessible through the search term student census in the search bar. Summaries of outcomes by identities continue to be presented in a variety of ways, including board highlights of analysis on February 16th, 2020, system leadership workshops April and October 2021, inclusion as expanded analysis in standard reports such as the Positive School Climates Report, which was presented to board on March 7, 2022. The third question was, does the board have data on what percentage of students identify as 2S LGBTQIA to ensure it's meeting this goal? And the answer is that 11% of grades 7 to 12 students who shared their sexual orientation on the 2018-19 student census identified as 2S LGBTQIA. Although sexual orientation was not included as a question on the 2020-21 school climate survey, 6.9% of students shared that their gender identity was among the expanded gender identities included for the first time on this survey. And identity questions are continuing to be included in existing survey tools and as part of the development of new surveys to support the identification of obstacles and barriers that students currently have to navigate. And to add, most recently, we provided some opportunities to administrators to learn more about supporting transitioning students both in a system leadership and family of schools meeting. As of June 16th, we have activated the My Name field on our student data system to capture transitioning students' new name. We continue to work alongside our Visible Everyday Committee to support 2S LGBTQIA staff and students. We have also collaborated with Durham Alliance Outreach on a virtual GSA from January to June, the last session being last Wednesday. And I was in discussions with PFLAG Durham just today about summer literacy camps and tutoring support for the fall. Finally, our board was a co-sponsor with other municipal partners in the end-of-year Pride graduation party and of Youth Pride Durham on Saturday, June 4th at the Whitby Municipal Building. And finally, for the first time ever, the Autistic Pride flag was raised at the Education Center in recognition of Autistic Pride Day on June 18th. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Akua, for the question. Thank you, Superintendent Negru, for his response. We're also going to go to Director Marsh, who would like to respond.
I'm just going to say, if you have difficulty with the search bar, even though Superintendent Negro gave you the search, what to search for in the search bar, please feel free to reach out and we'll make sure you get to the appropriate page where all those results are there for you.
Yes, was having difficulty, but thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. The remainder of the questions have been asked to be read aloud. I would like to now ask Executive Lead Sir Janik to read out the remaining questions, and staff will respond. Rob?
Thank you, Chair Morton, and through you, we have 2 questions today in total from Mike Alford and Linda Yardley. The first question is, do you approve of the report from the Learning Materials Reconsideration Committee that no action is to be taken on 2 books cited, and the third will be allowed to return to circulation after only a clarifying statement is applied to the book? And if you do approve, what compelling information convinced the board to change its mind? And we'll turn it over to Councillor Cotter to respond.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. So the Learning Materials Reconsideration Committee was a committee that was struck pursuant to the board's policies and procedures on the reconsideration of learning resources. The report that is referenced in the question was brought forward from the committee to the board as an information item. It was not something for the board to approve. The board has established the policy, and that report was merely an implementation of that policy by the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Cotter. And the second question is, community members should be able to know what books are in the Ddsb library system, similar to the policy of other school boards, including the Ddsb and the WRDSB. Will you take steps to permanently enable public access to the Ddsb library system portal so that community members are better informed? And we'll be turning that over to Superintendent Davis to respond.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Although we appreciate the interest of community members, but unlike public libraries, which serve all citizens in the region, our mandate is to serve the students, the staff, and the parents at Durham District School Board. To that end, we offer each of our 75,000 students and all parents and staff complete and transparent access to all books in the school library collections. They can access the books either through online services or they can access them through their home schools. So during the pandemic, we provided global access to the library systems as a means of removing barriers to learning. As pandemic restrictions were eased, the global access was reviewed, and we've gone back to our recommended security measures. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis, and I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Morton.
Thank you for those questions. Thank you for the responses. Moving on, we have several Durham District School Board presentations. The first one is the Student Trustee Recognition. With the last board meeting of the school year, and on behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, I would like to thank our outgoing student trustees, James Kay, Demario Knowles, and Kayla Malcolm, for the work that they have done this school year in advocating for their fellow students. These 3 student trustees truly made a difference. They developed leadership skills that will last a lifetime. Fellow trustees, staff, and members of the public, we have prepared a short video from James, Demario, and Kayla, and they're speaking about their experiences, and they're offering some advice for our new student trustees, Ben, Gwyn, and Lauren. Thank you.
Hello DDSB students, my name is Demario Knowles and I am proud to have represented East Durham for the 2021-2022 school year.
Hello DDSB students, my name is Kayla Malcolm and I am proud to have represented West Durham for the 2021-22 school year.
Hello DDSB students, my name is James Kay and I am proud to have represented North Durham for the 2021-2022 school year.
We want to thank all DDSB students for their support in creating welcoming, inclusive learning environments for our fellow students.
The highlight of the 2021-2022 school year for me was advocating for the students of Whitby and Opsba, as well as promoting equity throughout the Durham District School Board.
The highlight of the 2021-22 school year for me was our mental health symposium, as we collectively worked alongside mental health professionals to execute a successful event for our students and send out our message that their mental health and well-being will always matter.
The highlight of the 2021-2022 school year for me was working alongside the Student Success Working Group to create and design our mental health resource, The Ins and Outs of Finding Help, or better known as the 5 W's of student support. The intention of this document is to ensure students and their mental health are supported both inside and outside of the classroom by answering common questions, or the 5 W's, of finding help. We want to extend a warm welcome to the Ddsb's student trustees for the 2022-2023 school year.
I want to say a huge congratulations to Ben Cameron, who will be representing the West Region in the upcoming school year.
Gwen Hewitt, representing the East Region.
And Laura Edwards, representing the North Region.
The advice I would give to our incoming 2022-23 student trustees is to never doubt yourself, your thoughts, or your opinions. You were elected into this role for a reason, and everyone in the schools and board office is interested in what you have to say. You have an opportunity to use your voice in a higher setting than the classroom. Use it.
Always stay in touch with your co-student trustees because communication is a vital element of success, and to always focus on making a positive impact.
The advice I would give to our incoming 2022-2023 student trustees is to be rooted in the present and do not lose sight of what is important. The student trustee life is very busy. There will always be a bucket list of tasks to complete. So try not to lose sight of the valuable and once-in-a-lifetime experience it is being a student trustee. Do not get caught up in the logistics, and remember to work together with your co-student trustees. They become some of your closest friends.
Thank you to the senior staff for all the support you have given me and the other student trustees this past year. We truly appreciate it. We wish all Ddsb students a safe, healthy, and happy summer, and wish you all the best for the 2022-23 school year.
It has been a pleasure having James, Demario, and Kayla around the board table this last year. Your insights, your hard work on behalf of your fellow students have made us a better school district. And we look forward to all the wonderful things that the three of you will accomplish in the future. Thank you for the work that you have done. Thank you for your leadership. Director Marsh, would you like to say a few words?
It's a pleasure for me to represent the senior team in acknowledging all that you have done this year to serve the students within Durham Region, Durham District School Board. And I'm going to echo some of the comments that Chair Morton made, but also some of the comments you made in your video. We were so impressed by the way the three of you collaborated, because it can be very challenging to collaborate effectively, and yet you did so. You took your position, and it didn't drive your ego. What it drove was your sense of service and using your voice to benefit students across the district. We were incredibly impressed by the way that you navigated many challenges, how you advocated appropriately and professionally, but also persevered in terms of what you wanted to accomplish this year, and you provided for students across Durham District School Board a sense of voice, a sense of encouragement, a sense of optimism when it was challenging, and most importantly, a sense of the supports that are here for them. And we very much thank you for your unbelievable service during a trying year. You were inspiring to us, and you need to know that your voice made an incredible difference, and we thank you so much. Chair Morton is correct in terms of your future. We really look forward to hearing that all that you will accomplish, and we hope that you never doubt your capabilities and your skill, because you should think about all that you've accomplished this year whenever you're faced with any challenging situation in the future, and know that you have the skills and capabilities to succeed. Thank you for your leadership. We do have some special things to see you off, if the three of you would be willing to come up, please.
your outstanding commitment and support to the Durham District School Board schools by bringing student voices to the boardroom table. Thank you for your service. And to Kayla, for your outstanding commitment and support for our schools, bringing student voices to our table. Thank you, Kayla. And to DeMario, for your outstanding commitment and your support of all of our schools and all of our students. You have been, all three of you, a terrific asset to our board. Thank you for your service.
So a spoiler alert in terms of what's in the bag. We talked about how inspirational your voice was, and last year the senior team were really inspired by Amanda Gorman, who did the inaugural speech of the election, and her poetry. And so we wanted to leave you, we reflected as a senior team in terms of how inspirational the voice of youth is and how much we have learned from her poetry. And so we want to leave you with a copy of Amanda Gorman's poem in a hard copy book, so you'll each get one of those. And then, so you never forget us, a Ddsb bag to carry all of those supplies that you can fit in there for next year. And there's some Ddsb mementos inside as well. Thank you to each of you.
And we have another very special presentation. Every year since 2003, the Board of Trustees are proud to recognize a graduating student who exemplifies excellent leadership and citizenship and who has well represented student issues to others with the Chairperson Scholarship. A committee consisting of myself, Trustees Patrice Barnes, Donna Edwards, Nikki Lundquist, and Scott Templeton reviewed all nominations. The committee is proud to award the Chairperson Scholarship for 2022 to Grace Boyce, a student at St. Clair Secondary School. And you will see Grace on the screen. Grace has been involved in the St. Clair community for the past 4 years. She has been a member of the Gay Straight Alliance, developed the St. Clair Leadership Camp, and has been a part of the White Pine Book Club. Grace has been a champion and has contributed her talents to the LGBTQ community. At weekly meetings, she created a positive atmosphere and was a kind, passionate individual with whom students could rely upon and confide in. She provided a safe place for her peers who were nervous, using humor and compassion to help them express their problems and to find solutions to their daily struggles. Teachers know her throughout the school for her dedication to social justice issues. She has a connection to the school, but also a connection to the community. Grace volunteers as a summer camp counselor and has helped raise money for McHappy Days. Her caring nature and personality allow her to work well with others in a team setting. Grace respects the opinions of others even when they differ from her own. Grace planned and developed a 2-day leadership camp for the school body that discussed diversity, leadership, environmental issues, and mental health. Grace is compassionate, mature, and an independent person who has made a significant difference at St. Clair Secondary School. Grace Boyce exemplifies leadership and citizenship, making her a worthy recipient of the Chairperson Scholarship. I would like to invite Grace to say a few words. Grace, you're on.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I have been in the DDSB like my whole life, my whole schooling, and I've always enjoyed and appreciated all the availability that I've had, the different activities and interests I've been able to like explore in the DDSB and all the opportunities afforded to me. I really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you for all the work that you have done. Your envelope will be, your scholarship will be arriving at your school. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have another presentation, the Ability Scholarship Award. And for that, I'm going to go to Superintendent Andrea McCauley. Andrea?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Leading our presentation tonight is System Lead Michelle Crawford-Eade, who will introduce our recipient as well as our co-presenters.
Good evening, through you, Chair. This evening, we are pleased to announce and present the 2022 Ability Scholarship. The Learning Disabilities Association of Durham Region and the Durham District School Board partnered to provide an annual $1,000 Ability Scholarship Award. This evening, we have Donna Cook and Rowan Jarvis from the Learning Disabilities Association to help us celebrate. The Ability Scholarship recognizes a DDSB high school student who has a diagnosed learning disability and who will be continuing their studies. A committee comprised of members of the Learning Disabilities Association of Durham Region and the Durham District School Board SEAC reviewed the nominations to determine the recipient. Congratulations go to the 2022 Ability Scholarship recipient, Cheyenne Brown. Cheyenne's submission highlighted her journey as a learner and shines with her energy. Her submission was a short essay highlighting how she drew on the support of her mom and understanding her strengths and needs, along with the importance of taking it one day at a time in order to meet with her success. There is no better person than Cheyenne herself to share her words. It is my pleasure to introduce the 2022 Ability Scholarship recipient, Cheyenne Brown, to read her submission.
Do I go? Oh, sorry. Ever since I was younger, I always knew I was different from everyone else. As the rest of the class were silently doing their work, I had difficulty understanding what I was supposed to do. Most of the time, I felt like I was doing a never-ending puzzle that I could never solve or do. When I was told I had a learning disability, I was hurt, and I felt like an outcast at my school. I thought that I couldn't be to become the person I want to be. And to be honest, I felt like I was stupid, and I was afraid that I wouldn't succeed in life. When I finally told my mom about how I felt, she sat me down and looked me in my eyes, like she could actually see me. She told me that I was one of the smartest people she knew. She told me that all my teachers told her that I was an exceptional young lady, a hard worker, kind, and bright individual. My mom told me that just because you learn differently from everyone else doesn't make you any less different from the rest of your classmates. My mom helped me build myself back up, and knowing that she was there for me, I thrived every day into my studies. With the inspiration from my mom, I made a goal for myself, that even though I learned differently, I will try my hardest to achieve high grades and I allow my own challenges to find who I am. If I had the opportunity to travel back in time to my grade 9 self, I would tell myself to never get discouraged or feel less important because of your learning disability. And even if it feels impossible, it isn't, because all you have to do is be organized and take it one day at a time, and you'll be just fine.
Thank you, Cheyenne. That was wonderful. I enjoyed it even the fourth and fifth time I read it, so thank you. At this time, you're welcome. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Donna to say a few words on behalf of the Learning Disabilities Association of Durham Region in recognition of your accomplishment.
Right, can everyone hear me? On your amazing award. We are so proud to partner with Ddsb and honor you this evening with your scholarship. Your hard work has paid off and your essay was heartwarming. And I really think your mom is your best quarterback, like all moms are. So kudos to her too. And you're going into a wonderful field, broadcasting and film. It's the up and coming thing in Toronto. So best of luck and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Congratulations, Cheyenne.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and congratulations. We have a final presentation, and that's the Parent Involvement Committee Annual Report. I will go to Trustee Scott Templeton for that. Scott?
Thank you very much. The report can be found on pages 29 through 34, I believe it is. I just wanted to make some mentions. I'm not sure if Jim or Hume are going to be here to speak or not. I'd have to check with Margaret. But the report can be found on pages 29 to 34, I believe it is. And if Margaret has anything else to add to it, other than myself, it's been a pleasure to work with everybody that's been on this. The Parent Involvement Committee is an amazing group. They come up with so many great ideas and they share them throughout the Durham District School Board. I'm going to leave it at that because I can't top it any better than that. And I'm going to pass it on to Margaret for some final words.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. Yes, Jim and Uma should be on. They should be locking in now to get on to do the report. And it has been certainly an absolute pleasure working with the PIC committee this year. We were all very new to the committee, all of us, when we started in late last year, and so we had some hesitancy in our growth. But I just want to thank our co-chairs, Humer and Jim, for the work that they did. They were both new to the role as well. But their commitment certainly to parent engagement and to ensuring that our parents have the tools that they need was second to none. And so I'm certainly looking forward to working with the PIC committee again next year as well. And so I'm just going to welcome, are they in? The committee I can't see. They're there. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to invite Jim and Uma to now present the Parent Involvement Committee report.
Thank you and good evening. We are pleased to be with you tonight to share the 2021-2022 Parent Involvement Committee's annual report. My name is Huma Chaudhry. Jim?
Parent Involvement Committee, tonight will be. Can you hear me?
You got cut off. How about you start again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
And my name is, and tonight we'll be presenting the annual Parent Involvement Committee report.
As indicated in the annual report, the Parent Involvement Committee is composed of 23 members across the district, which includes Trustee Templeton, 3 community representatives, 10 parent representatives, 1 elementary teacher, 1 secondary teacher, 2 elementary administrators, and 1 secondary administrator. The Parent Involvement Committee's primary goal is to provide the Durham District School Board with information and advice to help engage parents across the district by undertaking activities to help parents support their children's learning at home and in school. Tonight, we hope to highlight key initiatives of the Parent Involvement Committee. To begin, the Parent Reaching Out Grant. Second, Parent Engagement Series event. Third, Durham Parent Symposium. Fourth, Parent Engagement e-newsletters. And fifth, Volunteer of Distinction. To begin, our group established and launched subcommittees to support the development and implementation of each initiative. We worked together to ensure that the sessions and events offered were responsive to parent and family needs as we continue to live through the uncertainty of the pandemic. Thus, the Ministry of Education provided approximately $75,000 to support parent engagement across the district by funding a wide range of initiatives that helped parents become more involved in their child's education. Ultimately, a total of 32 programs were approved involving 60 school communities, DDSB at home, and 3 affinity groups. A few of the projects involved were engaging families and parents in well-being activities, supporting digital awareness and online practices at home and school, bringing families together virtually to learn about equity and diversity through arts, culture, wellness, and physical movement. It should be noted that a common theme for the program events was wellness and mental health.
Next, we held a virtual parent engagement series titled Parenting the New Teen in the Age of Anxiety. Dr. John Duffy as the speaker. The event was well attended by over 500 parents, caregivers, and educators. Dr. Duffy kept the audience spellbound for 2 hours as he shared personal anecdotes that were highly relatable, easy to follow, engaging, and grounded in research. The feedback that we received was both positive and encouraging. Attendees are recording this stating one of your best presentations to date, and they are always good. I feel hopeful after listening to Dr. John Duffy. Another response was, listen to. It's nicely. This was outstanding. This information focused on building positivity for parents, caregivers,
I'm sorry, that volume is not coming through. We are having difficulty hearing your message.
Positive relationships, all with over 650 attendants.
My apologies, Jim. I'm just going to Chair Morton, if it's okay. I'm not sure. It may help if you actually turn off the video stream, and that way the Wi-Fi might improve in terms of us hearing your voice, if that's possible, please.
Turn off my video?
Yes, and see if that may help us in terms of hearing you come through more clearly in terms of the broadband.
Perfect. Can you hear me better now, or?
Yes, thank you so much, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Families registered for the event with over 650 in attendance. Attendees participated in breakout sessions dealing with various relevant issues facing parents and students today, offering support that could be used by guardians to help their students connect and thrive in our current reality. Moving on, each year in the fall, the PIC and the DDSB recognize the valued work and presence of volunteers in our schools. We understand that volunteer opportunities have been limited throughout the 2020-21 school year due to COVID-19 restrictions. To acknowledge those who access virtual or in-person volunteer opportunities to support school communities, the PIC send out gifts and certificates to each school so that these community members can be recognized at their individual elementary or secondary schools in the fall of 2021. We hope that the 2022-2023 school year will see volunteers within every school in the district. Finally, the Parent Involvement Committee also created 3 e-newsletters for the benefit of parents and guardians. Each newsletter contains exciting information, resources, activities, and strategies for parents, guardians, and caregivers. All are posted on the Ddsb Parent Engagement webpage for easy access. In conclusion, this has been another challenging year for parents, guardians, and caregivers due to COVID-19. We are thankful that we had the opportunity to facilitate meaningful engagement opportunities for parents with the purpose to assist them in supporting their children. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve our Ddsb community this past school year.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Moving on to the report from the Committee of the Whole in camera, I will go to Vice Chair Christine Thatcher.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. The Board approved the actions of the Committee of the Whole in camera and adopted the motions made at the Committee of the Whole in camera meeting as follows. The disclosure of intimate personal or financial information in respect of a member of the Board or Committee, an employee or prospective employee of the Board, or a pupil, or his or her parent or guardian. Decisions in respect of negotiations with employees of the Board, in terms of the litigation affecting the Board, administrative transfers and placement, property matters, and employee relations issues. Chair Morton, this is my report.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. Are you willing to move that report?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Good news from the system. Director Marsh, hopefully you've got lots of good news to share with us.
Chair Morton, not only do we have loads of good news, we have the pleasure of students narrating it, and I will turn it over to them now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of DDSB students and staff, we are happy to bring you good news from across the system.
Many students have been awarded post-secondary scholarships for their leadership and achievements in the classroom and beyond. Congratulations to Kudakwashwa Sirwiwa of GL Roberts CVI for the I Farada Institute of Excellence Award. James K. of Brock High School awarded the Guelph University Academic Leadership Scholarship. Zainab Khalid and Habiba Shafi of Maxwell Heights Secondary School, who both received the Ontario Tech University President's Scholarship. Maham Khwaja of Donald A. Wilson Secondary School, receiving the Loran Scholar Award. Sar Al-Ghazar of Brooklyn High School awarded the TD Scholarship for Community Leadership. Lana Wahbe of J. Clark Richardson Collegiate, who received the University of Toronto National Scholar Award and the Loran Scholar Finalist Award. Please join us in congratulating these students and the many others who have been awarded scholarships.
Students are also achieving success in a variety of contests, challenges, and competitions. Sierra Del Bono, a grade 5 student at Brooklyn Village Public School, was recently announced as the second place winner in the Brooklyn Legion's Remembrance Day Literacy Contest. Sierra wrote a powerful essay about why Remembrance Day is so important. Owen Massey, a grade 12 student in the Business Specialist High School Major program at Port Perry High School, won first place in a simulated stock market competition. Owen's knowledge and understanding of key investment principles paid off as he walked away with a $1,000 TFSA. Ashley Levine, a grade 9 student at Donald A. Wilson, entered the CVC First Page Writing Contest for the first time in grade 7. This year, she was overjoyed to learn that 3 of her stories have been selected as finalists in the contest. Rayad El Khatib, a grade 10 student at Maxwell Heights, participated in the United Nations Invent Future Global Challenge. As one of 10 Canadian students selected, Rayad participated in a committee made of 80 international students. They focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goal of equality education for all.
Congratulations to DDSB educators Aline Salim, Stephen Crowther, Carolyn McCarran, and Stephanie Bessie, who have all received the 2022 OPSBA Achievement Award. The award recognizes those who have demonstrated outstanding, exemplary, and unique contributions to the overall well-being of a school or community through in-school, board-wide, extracurricular, and volunteer work or contributions. Well done.
James Klodnicki, principal of Donald A. Wilson, and Colleen Rasmussen, teacher at Ajax High School, have recently accepted the Champions Against Homophobia and Transphobia award presented by PFLAG Durham. This award is given to those making a difference by practicing and upholding non-discriminating policies, encouraging those around them to use inclusive language, and speaking out, and advocating in support of equal rights for 2S LGBTQ+ individuals. Thank you, James and Colleen.
Students across the board stood in unity of International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia. The DDSB proudly supports all of our staff, students, and community members across a diverse 2S LGBTQ+ community. We see you, we appreciate you, and we are dedicated to amplifying your voice.
This year's Cypher series from Black Male Empowerment brought together 380 students to network and learn about future academic pathways and positive transitions. The Cypher series has run annually since 2017 and aims to break down barriers to dismantle anti-Black racism in Durham. During the pandemic, Cypher has been presented in the form of webinars that are broadcast in classrooms for students in grades 6 to 8. These webinars have provided learning for educators and simultaneously engaged Black males and their peers with content that affirms and centers Black identities and experiences.
After the recent tornado that touched down in Uxbridge on May 21st, our school communities and neighbors have been working hard to recover from the damage. Uxbridge Secondary School raised funds through a pancake breakfast to support the recovery efforts. The school SCC jumped into action to help provide breakfast items, while the school's culinary department did the work of making the breakfast. The Ignite Durham Learning Foundation also raised funds and provided donations to support families in need with grocery gift cards to replenish their food supply.
Across the district, DDSB students, staff, and schools have gotten into the fundraising effort to support their community. Brock High School, Meadowcrest, and Valley Farm Public School students have participated in the Cram a Cruiser event to support Feed the Need in Durham. Feed the Need collects surplus and donated perishable and non-perishable food to support food banks, shelters, meal programs, and in-school nutrition programs. The Muslim Educators Network of Durham and the Ignite Durham Learning Foundation provided support to a family at E.B. Finn Public School who experienced an unexpected loss. Brooklyn High School students participated in Relay for Life, raising money for cancer research. Brands Canada has donated skids of brand new supplies to the Ignite Durham Learning Foundation. Items including swimming accessories, shoes, purses, clothing, hand soap, and hand sanitizer have been received at the Make a Difference Depot for distribution to our school communities. Thank you, Brands Canada.
On June 7th, the DDSB had the pleasure of celebrating our retirees at our annual retirement dinner. Thank you to all the DDSB staff that keep our schools running seamlessly and motivating the minds of our future. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your dedication and impact.
On May 26th, the DDSB welcomed our honored guests, their proud families, and friends for Student Recognition Night. Student award winners were chosen by school staff for the unique ways they make our schools and communities more inclusive, more vibrant, and in doing so, improve the school experience for others around them. Congratulations to all the students recognized at the ceremony.
Marianne Okech, a 24-year-old DDSB alum from Sinclair Secondary School, is the second Canadian ever to win Survivor. Okech described how she's lived in diverse cities and has also been in situations where she was the only Black person there. But in every situation, I thrived, she said. Survivor is another place where my resilience and personality will shine. Congratulations, Marianne.
For the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic, system leaders met in person at the May 24th and 25th system leadership meetings. Each day, the room was full of energy and enthusiasm, with special guest speakers and roundtable discussions focused on the DDSB's commitment to centering Indigenous rights and human rights in the work they do each day. Staff also collected funds to support families in Uxbridge affected by the tornado.
School staff and students have been hard at work organizing and performing in musicals, talent shows, and art nights. Willows Walk Public School hosted their first arts night. The evening kicked off with a talent show, followed by activities like soca dancing, boom whackers, guitars, Lego printmaking, and rock painting. Rosemary Brown Public School hosted their first arts and cultural event. The school's equity team organized a talent show where students showcased their culture through a variety of art forms, including dance, step, poems, songs, and music. Students in grades 4 to 8 put on the Lion King Jr. musical at Captain Michael Van de Bos. Preparing throughout the pandemic was not an easy task, but staff and students persevered to put on a fantastic show. They had a full house for every performance. Staff and students at S.A. Cocker organized a production of Aladdin the Musical. The students put on 6 performances for the school and other local schools, families, and guests. The whole cast had a wonderful time and received ovation after ovation. After a 2-year hiatus, R.S. McLaughlin CVI proudly presented Mary Poppins Jr. the Musical. Students were thrilled to perform over 5 times for live audiences. The show was a great success, and students had an amazing experience on stage singing and dancing.
School athletics have been sorely missed by many students, families, and staff over the last 2 years. This year, we have seen students and schools energized with the return of the sport and athletic success. The Henry Street boys rugby team was ecstatic, winning gold at LASA. Lord Elgin public school students participated in intermediate boys basketball, competing in the 3-on-3 tournament against other DDSB schools. Brooklyn High School girls field lacrosse team was crowned LASA champions, and schools across the district saw a return to track days with students having fun and participating in their favorite events.
Canada's largest skilled trades and technology competition, Skills Ontario, took place in a remote virtual format. The DDSB was proud to have 64 students competing from both the elementary and secondary levels. This year, DDSB students showed attendees what enthusiasm, dedication, and skill look like when they entered 28 different competitions and medaled in a third of those. Congratulations to all our students who participated at the provincial and national level.
On May 28th, Eastdale held its first Girls' Night In. They held over 100 students participate in this evening of female empowerment. Thank you to all the staff who helped organize and run this evening, and to all of our community partners for making this happen.
The dates of significance, as you can see, take us up to the start of school for regular calendar elementary and secondary schools.
Thank you to Zainab, Hassan, and Maddie from Maxwell Heights Secondary School for reading this month's good news.
Thank you. That does conclude it, Chair Morton. I did warn you that there was lots of good news, but it is so wonderful to celebrate it. Thank you.
Yes, we celebrate many good things that are happening in the Durham District School Board. Thank you to our 3 students from Maxwell Heights for sharing those good news stories. Moving on to the recommended actions, and we do have a few. The first recommended action is the election of a standing committee vice chair. I will open the nominations for vice chair of standing committee. The nominations are now open.
I'd be happy to self-nominate.
Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Moved by Trustee Templeton. That is a self-nomination. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations?
Madam Chair, I will self-nominate Paul Crawford.
Thank you. Self-nomination by Trustee Paul Crawford. Thank you, Trustee Crawford. Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Seeing none, the nominations will be closed. Candidates, you will each be given an opportunity to speak to those nominations. I will go first to Trustee Templeton. Scott?
Very simple. I've been following everybody and gathering in experience from the way everybody's handled meetings and everything else. And I'd be happy to sit as chair standing and put that experience to good use. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Moving to Trustee Crawford, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 20 years experience as a trustee, 20 years experience as a parliamentarian, and almost too many things here to put forward. I would think my experience as a parliamentarian would help me in that position. and I would be happy to also take that information to the other trustees and maybe putting together some courses. As a matter of fact, even if not elected as to this position, I would do that anyway. Thank you.
Thank you to both. Now we will vote by confidential
Chair Morton.
polling system.
Chair Morton, if I may, we just need to pause for a second in order to organize the vote.
We will pause for a moment to organize the vote.
We're live.
Chair Morton, I'll just ask for some clarification and direction in terms of where the link is for people to vote.
So the voting will work, it is directly in Zoom. Once that poll is set up, trustees will have the option between the two candidates and to select one of them. And then we have myself, Director Marsh, Council Cotter, and student trustees to be able to scrutineer that result. It is now shown up. It should be on all of your devices right now. Just one trustee remaining. If any trustee is having a challenge, please indicate and we can support if needed. Okay, we do have a result, thank you. I will send that in a message directly to you, Chair Morton.
Your mic's not on.
I need that. Congratulations, Trustee Templeton. You are the new Vice Chair of the Standing Committee. Thank you.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you, Bill.
Moving on to the second election, and this is going to be for the election of Director to Opsba, the voting member. So again, I will ask for nominations. Opsba Director, voting member. Nominations are now open. Trustee Edwards?
Yes, I will self-nominate.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Moving to Trustee Thatcher.
Yes, and I'll self-nominate as well.
Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Seeing no further nominations, nominations will be closed. I will ask Trustee Edwards to speak, and then I will ask Trustee Thatcher to speak.
Thank you. I've been involved with the Ontario Public School Board Association in a variety of positions, including director as the voting rep, Central East chair, vice chair, as well as I sat on the policy committee. I've actually sat on Opsba when the School Board Collective Bargaining Act was discussed and received royal assent. With my historical experience of the School Board Collective Bargaining Act involvement in Opsba, I have a clear understanding of Opsba bylaws and the role of the voting rep and director when the voting processes change as we sit as a board or as Labor Council. Opsba Board of Directors and Labor Council will be busy over the next actually the whole year, I think, as we go into collective bargaining. And at sometimes those meetings, as we sit as Labor Council, are set up at last-minute notice. I have the flexibility in the schedule to attend those meetings when they're called in such notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to Trustee Thatcher, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. I cannot attest to that many years as part of Opsba. As a new trustee this term, I have been part of the Opsba Board of Directors now for 2 years. I think that it is time for change, and I would like to have a little bit more responsibility moving into the position of voting director with Opsba. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Edwards, Trustee Thatcher, we will now vote for the election of a director, voting member of Opsba, and again, voting will be by confidential polling. That was much faster, thank you. Congratulations to Trustee Thatcher. You are now the voting member, the director representing our voice at Opsba.
Thank you so much.
But that means that we would need another election for the second director, who is the non-voting member. Are there nominations for Opsba, director, non-voting member? Thank you, Trustee Barrett.
I was going to nominate Trustee Donna Edwards.
Thank you. Trustee Edwards, will you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there further nominations for Opsba Director non-voting position? Are there further nominations? Are there further nominations? Seeing none, Trustee Edwards, you are the new director. Even you are not new to the role of director, but you will be representing our voice at the Opsba table. Thank you. We also need now to elect an alternate for our Opsba trustees. So we will open the nominations for an alternate for Opsba director. Are there nominations? Are there nominations for the alternate director position? Are there nominations for the alternate director position?
I'll put my name forward as the alternate.
Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Seeing no further nominations, thank you, Trustee Templeton. You will represent our table as an alternate at Opsba. Moving on, We need to elect an alternate for the SEAC committee, the Special Education Advisory Committee, an alternate. Nominations are now open. Nominations are now open for an alternate for SEAC. Trustee Barrett?
Okay, I will self-nominate.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Are there further nominations for the alternate at SEAC? Further nominations? Thank you, Trustee Barrett. You are our new alternate at SEAC. It's coming. Okay, press it. Oh, you're finished. Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Moving on, we have one more election, and that is the alternate on the PIC committee. Do I have a nomination for the alternate on the PIC committee? Trustee Barrett.
I nominate Trustee Lundquist.
Trustee Lundquist, do you accept that nomination?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. Are there further nominations for the role of alternate on the PIC committee? Further nominations? Thank you, Trustee Lundquist, for serving as our alternate on the PIC committee. And I think we have had sufficient elections for this evening. Moving on, I'm going to go to Trustee Thatcher and ask her for the report from Standing Committee meeting June the 6th.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. The report can be found on pages 34 to 38. I now move that the board receive the minutes and approve the actions of the June 6th, 2022 Standing Committee meeting.
Thank you. You have put forward the motion. Could I have somebody second that motion? Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. Moving on, this time we're going to go to Trustee Edwards, the Chair of Finance, for consideration of the 2022-2023 draft budget. Donna?
Thank you. Over several meetings, staff have presented the draft budget for the 2022-2023 school year. The budgets can actually start on pages 41 through a lot of your package. It can be found. I would just like to thank staff at this point in time and the public for the consultation that they've had on this budget. This budget basically does meet our strategic goals and in the best interest of all our students to support their success for the next school year. The recommendation actually can be found on page 40, and any discussion about the budget, please ask Associate Director David Wright.
Thank you. I'm looking at page 40, and the recommendation reads as follows. It is recommended that the 2022-2023 draft budget containing total revenues of $1,013,223,241 and total expenses of $1,013,223,241 be approved as presented. That is the motion. You are putting forward that motion, Trustee Edwards?
Yes, Chair Morton.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion? Thank you, Scott Templeton. Questions, discussion regarding the budget?
Thank you, Chair Martin, and I don't really have any questions, just a couple of comments. I'm going to keep them very short because I know the evening's growing long. Thank you. Again, I'd just echo Trustee Edwards' comments and sentiments with regards to efforts from staff on being able to put this together. I know it is like shooting a dart at a balloon at a summer fair on being able to determine where the best prize is. I think you've been able to at least uncover a few of them at any rate. So I do appreciate David, you and your staff's efforts on being able to come forward with the budget. I also thank you, Donna, for your leadership, and I know you probably drove financial staff crazy by reading every single page and every single paragraph, but that is kudos to your leadership and efforts on that. Just want to be able to put it into context, I think, as well, that recognize that the budget doesn't always do everything that we want it to be able to do, but I would say that we have certainly built upon a history of sound financial prudence, sitting at Opsba and listening to other boards, as they call them, COVID deficit budgets and things of that nature. We've had to make some very difficult decisions. We've used other revenues in order to be able to ensure that we met the requirements of our students. And I would suggest that even making sure that we continue to be able to ensure that all of our employee accrued vacation is still fully accounted for, I think is something that only half the school boards in the province have. So I'm continue to be able to applaud our ability to be able to ensure that we have funds when needed. We have to make difficult decisions where they're spent, but certainly the efforts on being able to continue to do that is much appreciated, and so I do thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. And we all around the table echo Trustee Barrett's comments. Thank you for that. We have a motion in front of us put forward by Trustee Edwards, seconded by Trustee Templeton. We will vote for that motion by either using the green check mark or the red X. Please indicate. This motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Edwards, for your work on finance. Moving on to the draft emergency closing of schools policy. This time, I will go to Trustee Barrett.
Yes, thank you very much. As you know, trustees, this was a notice of motion on May the 16th. And the purpose of this report is to be able to seek approval for the revised draft emergency closing of schools policy that came about after a board discussion as well. I'm not going to read this over because we have had this as a notice of motion. We have also discussed it in the governance committee as well, where this has gone through at least one reiteration and come forward. But certainly what this policy does is a broad spectrum, is to be able to ensure that what we do is have some clarification is brought forward from staff in order to be able to clean up some language and be able to redefine and make a little clearer on being able to what we do in school emergencies. And I appreciate, again, the leadership that has come forward in order to be able to have this forward. So there is, I'm just trying to find my motion. Here there is a motion that, there it is on page 92, and I'll be glad to make the motion that the Board of Trustees approve the draft emergency closing of schools policy as distributed, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. I'm looking for somebody to second that motion. Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Open for questions or discussion. I am seeing no questions, so again, we will vote by either using the green check mark or the red X. Please vote now. That motion has also passed. Thank you for your work on that, Trustee Barrett. Moving on to the special education plan and programs for the next school year, I will turn to Superintendent Andrea McCauley. Andrea?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The purpose of this report, which begins on page 101 of tonight's agenda, is to seek approval from the Board of Trustees to adopt the Ddsb Special Education Plan for the 22-23 school year. The Ddsb Special Education Plan was presented to trustees on June 6th for information and feedback. The plan was developed in consultation with SEAC, and the completed plan shared with them as part of the June 16th SEAC agenda package. The Special Education Plan is currently posted publicly on the Ddsb website, and feedback on programs and services reflected in the plan is welcomed throughout the school year. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees consider the Special Education Plan for 2022-23 for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent McCauley. Your motion is an important one. Could I have somebody move that motion, please? Thank you. I'm seeing the hand of Darlene Forbes. Thank you, Darlene. Seconded by? Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Further discussion, questions? And we'll go to Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you. My question is short, I think. So I've read the plan. I have no issue with the motion. I just want to know that there's some degree of flexibility because we come up with plans and then different things appear during the course of the year. And I wasn't clear that there was as much flexibility there as I think is probably needed. So I'm just looking for some nodding or smiling that indicates there is more flexibility than it appears there might be.
Thank you, absolutely. So the plan sets out our programming and service commitments and staffing commitments in a transparent way with the public. But anytime there is, for example, additional funds available from the ministry, the district staff commit to availing ourselves of that in service of students. As well, a lot of the plan is based on ongoing professional learning, particularly tied to the two significant policies that the trustees have recently passed, Indigenous education and our human rights, anti-discrimination, anti-racism policy, and how that impacts how we listen to and serve our families and students. So certainly how we move the services changes throughout the year, and I think we're getting better at doing that in a more malleable way. Still ways to go to serving kids, but definitely to amplify the voices and utilize resources. Appreciate the question.
Next question is from Trustee Edwards. Donna?
Excuse me, Chair Morton, we can't hear Trustee Edwards.
Can you hear me
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry. So the plan, as I said, is set out by regulation, and it's a requirement of what goes into that special education plan, and it doesn't necessarily allow to show our flexibility of what we do, what our board does. It just outlines services and commitments, as Superintendent McCauley said. I will like to note, though, that staff have made some changes in this plan to reflect more of when we talk about exceptionalities around human rights and eliminating some of the ableist discussions, etc., that is required under the Education Act, that is still under the Education Act. So I really appreciate the plan, again, reflecting human rights policy and code, and make it more, more presentable to the public and acceptable to the public. Thank you.
Sorry, you can't hear you.
Carolyn, there appears to be a little issue, Chair Morton, there appears to be a slight issue with the microphone system. We're just trying to find the source of it. I believe those online may not be able to hear us. We do have a wireless mic that could be used, but it may be a bit of a challenge to pass it around, so someone might be getting exercise, which is probably me.
Thank you kindly. We will now move on to information items, and I'm going to go to Associate Director Wright, who will provide us with the quarterly construction and major projects progress report. Thank you, Associate Director Wright.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to welcome and introduce Lisa Bianca, Head of Facility Services, who is joining us online this evening to present this report.
Thank you, Associate Director Wright, and through you, Chair Morton. Here this evening to bring an update on the status of construction and major projects since the time of our report in March. During that time, we have been very fortunate to receive allocations for 2 additional capital priorities projects. One is the long-awaited North Oshawa Secondary School, and also an elementary school to be constructed in the Pickering-Seton area. So very, very pleased to add those to the 3 projects we already have underway, as well as the addition to Mary Street. I do need to draw your attention to some changes in dates of delivery of our existing projects. Unfortunately, without receiving approval to proceed to tender from the ministry prior to now, we are in a position where we feel we need to delay the opening of our Beaverton Thora Central School from 2023 to 2024. Similarly, the addition to Mary Street as well from 2023 to a September 2024 opening, and the North Oshawa, unnamed North Oshawa Public School, again, rescheduled from September 2023 to 2024. It truly is unfortunate, but without receiving approvals at this point in the year, we will not be able to achieve the earlier or previously scheduled opening dates. Childcare projects, we have 5 in development and 1 that is wrapping up construction. 2 are poised and ready to go out for tender. They have received approval to proceed, and we will be tendering those over the summer. The remaining 3, Seneca Trail, Sunderland, and Rosebank, will be continuing through the design and final approval phases. Lots of work ongoing with the major projects division. We have any number of projects ongoing. Right now, the majority of our work has been tendered and is preparing for construction to start this summer. It has been a bit of a challenging tender market. Pricing is quite volatile, but we have received good value for dollars for the ones we are proceeding with. So very pleased to be proceeding with the roster that we have. And at that point, I am happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yes, Trustee Forbes.
Thank you. So, Lisa, I just have a question about the Mary Street. We have that porta pack that is really beyond its lifespan. Limited washrooms, no washrooms in the kindergarten area, which is a challenge for the little ones and the safety. And so I'm really terribly disappointed that we haven't received permission to go forward with this. This is disappointing because it's been approved, but it's just that we haven't been given permission to go to tender. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Unfortunately, with that one, sort of the land holding issues did put us back a bit at the beginning, where we were in negotiations to possibly buy the site from Oshawa. It took a little while to iron that out. The good news with this project, though, is although we have pushed the opening date out, should we get approval sooner rather than later, because those students are staying in the building while we are building the new addition on, we have the opportunity to have an opening other than a September opening. So we will, as soon as we are in a position to do so, we will tender and get going on that one. So we're very hopeful that we will receive approval as soon as things get up and running again with the province.
Thank you.
Moving to Trustee Barrett for a question. Trustee Barrett?
Sorry, thank you. When we attended, through you, Madam Chair, and you were there as well, when we attended the official announcement with regards to the unnamed North Oshawa Secondary School, even the Minister of Education was quite shocked to find out that the build wasn't going to be done until September 2026. And he did say, and I quote, "We need to relook at this to be able to determine whether or not it could be earlier." And it was also summarily supported by the re-elected MPP for Whitby. I would like to be able to at least have a consensus that, through the chair, that we have you write a letter to the Minister of Education, to be determined, but if all rumors hold true, it will be a return of Minister Lecce, reminding him of that conversation and asking whether or not those funds could be, that building could be moved up to September 25. The only thing I didn't do was actually press record on my iPhone, which I wish I had of. But you were there, Trustee Morton. You heard the same thing. So if consensus be it, I think we should write a letter reminding him of his words and trying to be able to get that school built a year earlier. It took 7 years to get approval, or thereabouts. 1 year this way should probably be in our favor.
I completely agree with you. I think that's a good idea to write that letter to the minister, but we need to wait until he is sworn in, if he is the next Minister of Education.
We can't hear Trustee Barrett.
Is that better? Yes, it is. I can hear myself. I was just going to say the announcements for the Minister of Education are going to be sworn in at the end of this week. We can easily delay until it's affirmed and then write the letter. So I'm quite okay waiting 3 or 4 days. That's okay.
We probably can't hear you, Carolyn.
I think that all trustees around the table would be in agreement with that. I will now go to Trustee Lundquist, who has a question. Trustee Lundquist? Trustee Lundquist? Let's try it one more time. Your name is not coming up, so I can't. No. Oh, there's Michael Barrett. Oh, there's Trustee Lundquist. So I will go to, but now it's
No, it's working. I can hear it.
Go ahead.
So I'm in support of that letter, but I would observe that it doesn't really matter if the old education minister is the new education minister. We can still remind whoever it is of what was said and the importance of it, so I don't see any reason to delay it. And if that's a motion, then I would second that and hope that we could have a vote and move along.
Motion? Motion?
Well, we can have a motion, but I was looking for consensus works just as well if there's no objections.
Sure.
But I have a motion already written to instruct the chair to write to the Minister of Education, TBD or not TBD, that's the question. I thought that was kind of funny, to seek an earlier bill date for the unnamed Oshawa Secondary School in support of his comments made at the school announcement.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Trustee Lundquist, were you going to second that motion? Yes. Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Further comments? Then let's indicate our approval or not. Thank you, and that letter will be written. Thank you. I do need to make an apology to everyone. Because of our sound concerns 15, 20 minutes ago, we neglected to do something, and that's going back to the recommended action H, the Special Education Plan and Program. The motion was put forward. It's on page 103. The motion reads like this. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees consider the Special Education Plan and programs for the 22-23 school year for approval. Once approved, the Special Education Plan will be submitted to the Ministry of Education. That motion was put forward by Trustee Forbes. It was seconded by Trustee Edwards, but we did not conclude by voting. It is important now that we do indicate your support or not for that motion. Please indicate. That motion has passed, and I apologize for that. Thank you, Director Marsh, for bringing that to my attention. Moving on to the 2022 official enrollment projections. Over to you, Associate Director Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And once again, if I can, please call on Head of Facility Services, Lisa Bianca, to present this report.
Thank you, Associate Director Wright, and through you, Chair Morton, here this evening to provide information to the Board of Trustees regarding the October 2022 official enrollment projections. These projections were developed between consultation with board planning staff, people and culture, and business services, as well as input from principals throughout the system. Our board does remain a growth board, according to our with our projections, with an overall enrollment increase of about 591 students for the coming year. Within the projections, students attending DDSB at home have been included in their homeschool numbers, just as a point of reference. And as well, you'll see changes in capacity that reflects not only new facilities opened, but also change in ministry rated capacities based on class sizes. With that, I am happy to take any questions.
Questions or comments regarding enrollment projections? I will go to Trustee Barrett.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Lisa, for the information. And I recognize, after being here quite a while, that these are indeed projections, and I recognize that the numbers only you can only include plans that are actually registered, and I recognize that the numbers are based upon those plans. But we have been sitting here probably for the last 8 or 9 years and know that the numbers are usually understated because new plans, get registered plus the number of people that potentially move into each house. Because I recognize demographic methodology doesn't necessarily always work anymore, and I recognize that. So I do appreciate the report coming forward. I know we're still classified as a growth board, but I would suspect that the 519 students will be more like 1,519 students. Write that down, David. And not that I know anything better than you, Lisa, or anybody else. I just recognize that if we look at history, because I know that the limitations are that it has to be based on plans that are in existence. So I recognize that. But I would suspect that we're going to far outstrip these numbers and then still consistently need those schools that keep getting delayed through funding announcements that are 4 years out. For the next trustees can cut the ribbon, in next board can cut the ribbon. So I do appreciate Lisa bringing this forward. I recognize that there is a challenge, especially in a growth period, of trying to be able to ensure that we have capacity and capabilities and the students in the right place. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Sorry, I think I'm on, and I was going to shut it off and just complicate things again. So I think I have probably simple questions, but one point that is a bit confusing to me. When I look at the numbers on page 129 and I go through the town of Whitby, and it's like our actual numbers from this year, and then we go to, just say, to the end of October 2026, and it goes down. And I'm struggling with that idea because I know what kind of growth is projected for Whitby. And that I don't understand this number based on what is happening in West Whitby and North in Whitby. So I'm just wondering if you can offer some insight into that will make that make more sense to me, at least.
Great, thank you for your question, Trustee Lundquist. I'm going to ask my expert, Carrie Trombino, to chime in on that. She's very well versed with West Whitby, and she can give us some more insight. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and through you, Chair. In regards to Whitby, I'd have to go back and look at the school by school, but what we do see is the grade 8 graduating classes are quite large in our system, where our numbers, even though we are seeing larger JK numbers coming in this year, we are still a little on the conservative side, I guess I would say, for the JK, but we have quite a bit larger JK numbers. So I think that's where there will be the difference, and potentially the numbers could increase, but it does have to do with the grade 8s graduating, which are the largest class. And as you look at it, the numbers do become smaller and smaller as we go down to the younger grades. But yes, there is quite a bit of growth in West Whitby for sure, and we'll be accommodating that at a number of schools and continue to do so until hopefully into the future we'll receive funding for a school in that area.
Supplemental, please, Madam Chair. Because Carrie very helpfully made an observation about something about West Whitby and schools. So on page 122, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm specifically looking at some of the schools that are under capacity and then some that are really over capacity, like Meadowcrest, but also EA Fairman. And I assume EA Fairman's over capacity because it's a holding school for West Whitby. And we don't have a West Whitby school on the books, but I'm a little bit worried about the numbers at Fairman in particular because I've been to the school, including recently, and it's quite small. There's 360, the capacity is 256, so I recognize that doesn't sound like a lot of kids, but an extra 100 kids in a school of that size is not an insignificant thing. It's got a tremendously large yard, but it doesn't have infrastructure inside, so the washrooms are a problem. Even when I was there, I noted that it was a problem, and so I'm hopeful that we will turn our minds to the infrastructure in the school and whether we can support the kids. I understand that it's closer in lots of respects than some of the other schools, but I don't know that it can actually well manage it, and I just wanted to make that observation because it is an observation the community is also making. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving now to Trustee Thatcher, you have a question, Christine.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morton. I am actually a Whitby trustee, and certainly echo some of the concerns that were put forward here by Trustee Lundquist. I also recently did visit some of the West Whitby schools. Had many conversations with both Lisa and Carrie about those schools, but actually I'm asking a question today about a South Oshawa school because the numbers kind of jumped out at me there. Clara Hughes is, the numbers, projected numbers are over 900, and the reason that I actually did take a look at that is that I was speaking at the retirement dinner with the former principal from the school, and she mentioned that the numbers were around 800. So when I saw over 900, I just wanted, I'm not quite sure what the capacity is for this school, and if there is any consideration. I do realize that originally we folded 3 Oshawa schools into here, Ritson, Duke of Eden, and Harmony Road. But I wonder if someone could maybe address the capacity of that school, and if there is any need to be concerned about those numbers. They seem to be climbing very quickly, which is not necessarily a problem as such.
Great. Thank you for your question, and through you, Madam Chair. Yes, staff have been watching the population at Clara Hughes quite closely. It has been climbing. We will be adding 2 portables for the next school year to accommodate students that are coming in. While the site can accommodate probably 3 more portables than that, we are getting to the point at that school where it is becoming quite crowded. So staff are looking at options for what can be done to alleviate the number of students that are going there, and we will be bringing options forward through the trends and opportunities report that will be coming to board in September. So we're certainly aware, and it is a very popular place right now. But we are looking for solutions that are good for all the students. Yes.
Thank you very much.
I'm seeing no further questions. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Carrie, for joining us this evening. Oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Edwards.
I'm just through you, Chair. I'm just looking at some of our capacity issues, and it's reflected in several of the municipalities. But as a board, we have other options around dealing with capacities. One was the accommodation review process or boundary reviews. And the accommodation review process is there's still a moratorium on them as far as I understand. So it makes it very difficult for us to plan and deal with our schools that have low enrollment and being able to maybe alleviate some of the pressures. So I'm just wondering, especially when I look at like Jay Clark, who continues the growth areas in North Ajax, it continues to grow. We have other high schools, and I know we've already done some boundary reviews, but how much more boundary reviews are we going to be able to do compared to actually really pushing this, getting the ministry to allow us to look at accommodation reviews to better plan for the future for our students?
Great, thank you. Thank you for your question, Trustee Edwards. Yes, you're entirely correct. The accommodation review process remains on hiatus, and it has been for a number of years now. I don't know if, you know, and I'll ask Carrie Trombino to speak a bit about accommodation reviews versus boundary reassignments in order to manage growth and decline. As well, we still also have there is the capital priorities opportunity, which actually I should have mentioned for the regarding Clara Hughes as well. So we do ask for, when we have consistent growth in areas, we do have the opportunity to seek, you know, additions through capital priorities. But I'll turn it over to Carrie to add some information. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Our board has been successful over the past number of years when accommodation reviews were allowed. I believe we had 10 accommodation reviews, and Clara Hughes was a result of one of those accommodation reviews where 3 older schools were closed and a new school was constructed. There's definitely staff have identified some areas within the board where that may continue, but I know when we meet with some industry staff in the past, and we've asked about that, there was no further direction provided on when any opportunity for future accommodation reviews would commence. So we will continue to ask when we have the opportunity, but we have not heard anything over the past few years in that regard.
Seeing no further questions, we will move on to the next item. Ddsb summer programs, and a number of superintendents will be presenting, but we will first go to Superintendent Jack Negro. Jack.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, the report is found on pages 133 to 145 of your agenda package, and outlines a wide variety of programming available to Durham District School Board students this summer during July and August. Summer learning program teams are preparing right now for just over 10,000 registrants. The programs will provide opportunities for everything from a great start for our youngest learners to learning recovery due to the pandemic, to credit courses, and programming for English language learners and special needs learners as well. Il y a aussi des camps d'été en français pour nos élèves. Programs will be enhanced with, where possible, special education and mental health supports. In all of the literacy programming, we are beginning to incorporate elements of the Right to Read inquiry recommendations. And most of all, Madam Chair, we are making these programs engaging and fun for all students involved. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions, comments? Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. Really appreciate the list of the programs, and I see that we're going to have a very busy summer program. Just in the past, we used to actually get a list, especially when I look at some of our programs like the Great Beginnings for supporting children moving from kindergarten to grade 1, is what schools are being offered, because I know they're not necessarily offered in all. Just we used to get a list of where they were just for our information as well. And I'm just wondering if we could get that list.
Through you, Madam Chair, we can supply that list. There are 11, we're trying to piggyback on the same sites board-wide to contain a number of programs in those selected schools, and we can get a list of those to you in the next few hours.
Thank you for that report, and I see no further questions. When you say the next few hours, we do not expect you to stay up tonight doing that. Moving on to the Indigenous trustee, and we'll go back to Trustee Edwards. Trustee Edwards?
Thank you. This report is really just to follow up on previous discussions around the Indigenous trustee. Back in 2018, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation requested that the board appoint a representative to the board. We've had, at that point in time, the chair of the board wrote a letter to the chief of Mississauga Schuylkill Island requesting that they put forward a name for consideration for the potential of the appointment, which is a requirement under the legislation. And to this date, again, we were looking at this as far as to wrap up, because we had that discussion at the beginning of around trustee determination in the previous election and as well as this election. So a letter has been sent to the Mississauga Schuylkill Island First Nation asking them again for a name of representative for consideration on the board. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. I see Trustee Lundquist has a question or a comment.
I'm actually looking for an answer in terms of procedure, because I think that in light of the fact that it's June and there's a new board that's going to start sitting in November, that gives us 2 board meetings to address this, and I think it's important that we do. And so, you know, I recognize this is discretionary, and I think I would be asking that, you know, the board exercise its discretion pursuant to the regulation and the section, I guess, Section 188 of the Ed Act, to have an Indigenous trustee appointed. So I recognize there's no notice in here, no notice of motion, no recommended action. But what I would like to do is for somebody to provide me some direction about how to make this a notice of motion for the next board meeting so that we can proceed to deliberate.
Yes, and it's a very good question with regards to what are the next steps in the process. And as Trustee Edwards has put out, there was a letter sent to the Mississauga Schuylkill Island on May the 2nd asking them for a representative. So when that letter comes back, I believe that triggers exactly the discussion that you want to be able to have.
Okay.
Because when the letter comes back, it'll be naming someone, then it'll be up to the board at that point to determine whether or not we would actually appoint that individual. And I would suspect that that letter, and I'm only surmising, so take this with a little grain of salt, but that letter would come back, and then would be first order of business at the September board meeting to deal with that request.
Okay, so as long as it's going to make it to an
Yeah.
agenda, then I'm good to go. I just want to make sure it does make it to an agenda.
Yeah, and Trustee Edwards, that's fair, because I know you've been kind of quarterbacking this, but.
Yes, and I think Councillor Cotter can explain a little bit around the legislation required, but we do need that name to consider to go forward. But that's been the push, is to get that name in to consider the Indigenous trustee position.
I'm clear on the legislative requirement. I really just want to know what our process is. Yeah. So I'm good. Thank you.
Seeing no further comments or questions, we will move on to the SEAC report. Back to Trustee Edwards. Donna?
Thank you. The report for the Special Education Advisory Committee can be for April 21st, can be found starting on page 149. I'd just like to note that within those minutes, SEAC had started a dialogue around a request for membership from the Participation House. As minutes are 2 months behind, and just because of the dates of the meetings between SEAC and board, the committee had further discussion this month and is not recommending a voting member based on concerns relating to the organization being, 1, for a fee-for-service organization, and 2, because funding by another ministry, potential optics of being a ministry seat at the SEAC. So as a result, no motion for membership recommendation to the board will be forwarded to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Seeing no comments or questions, we will move to the Governance and Policy Committee meeting of May the 10th. Trustee Barrett.
Thank you. I'm going to be quick because really what comes forward under G and H are as a result of the Governance and Policy Committee. The minutes are there for your perusal.
Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Why don't we just move on to G then, your notice of motion for the revised learning resource selection policy?
Yes, thank you. So there are two notices of motion. I won't go over them because they are servicing as notice of motion. The members of the committee, of the Governance Committee, will recognize these. These are what have been recommended by the both policies by the Governance Committee on bringing forward on the selection process for literature. And the draft is attached and will be discussed at our next board meeting.
Thank you.
And the same would be on the notice of motion for a revised bylaw with regards to receiving board correspondence, which outlines the changes and the policy with regards to how the board deals with letters that are of public interest and directed to the chair. And that, again, is a notice of motion that is coming forward at the next board meeting as well.
Comments or questions regarding those two notices of motion? Seeing none, we will go back to Trustee Barrett for an Opsba report.
Okay, thank you, and I'm going to be brief. This is quite interesting, though. I think this is the first time in 19 years that I've actually given an Opsba report, because I've never served literally as a board of directors and a reporting one. In fact, I cast a vote at the Opsba AGM, and I think that was the first time in 17 years I actually got to cast a vote. So, but being very, very quickly, we did hold our AGM on the election of officers. Kathy Abraham was acclaimed as president, Kathleen Woodcock from the Waterloo Board as first vice, and Catherine Perrose from Rainy River was elected as the second vice. There was a lot of discussion at our AGM with regards to the completion of Project Compass, which was a 2-year project that I had the honor of being able to co-chair, which revised all the bylaws, the Constitution, representation, with 2 significant changes being made to the change to the Constitution, which is welcoming an Indigenous Trustee Council representative to the executive, and also the establishment of a Black Caucus organization within Opsba as well. Very, very significant changes that took place with regards to Compass. As quite obvious, I mean, I have stepped down from my role on Opsba, which is kind of weird. It's been 17 of the last 19 years that I've either served as on the board of directors or as president, first vice, second vice, policy committee, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm glad to see that Opsba is moving ahead in the right directions, and indeed, as Donna has already suggested earlier tonight, there's going to be a lot of challenges for public education as we go forward. So, Madam Chair, that's my report.
And thank you, Trustee Barrett, for those 17 years representing our voice at the Opsba table. That's a commitment that you have made, and we are greatly appreciative of your efforts. Thank you. I'm seeing no other business. I will draw your attention to one letter in the correspondence section. It is a letter from the Director of the Capital Programs Branch, and some of it's good news, some of it is not good news. If there's no other business, let's consider this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you, everybody.